said offers are out to future Hall of Famer Antonio Brown as well. Greg Jennings is back with us, but we're also joined by former defensive back, my guy Darius Butler, 9-year NFL vet. Fellas, I'm going to be real. We look like something out of a black menswear magazine, so kudos to all three of us, particularly you, DB. You outshined us all. But if I can say this, fellas, remind y'all and the rest of America, the Buccaneers, Super Bowl champs, they won their last 8 games in a row en route to the Super Bowl, outscoring opponents on average 34-19, getting to the Super Bowl and beating Patrick Mahomes' Chiefs. Remember, Patrick Mahomes' Chiefs had only lost one of his last 26 games when Patrick Mahomes was at quarterback. The Buccaneers bring back all 22 starters, but more importantly, they bring back their head coach, their offensive coordinator, their defensive coordinator. So if you have all of that, what could possibly derail the Buccaneers from repeating? To me, it's only one thing: complacency. That's the only thing. If you're telling me Tom Brady's coming back with a real offseason, not completely marred by COVID, if you're telling me future Hall of Famer Rob Gronkowski's coming back, and he's not coming back with a previous year in retirement, but he's coming back with the previous year, his body learning how to refire on all cylinders. You're telling me they bring in Leonard Fournette back, then on defense, they re-sign their star Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul? I don't see anything stopping the Bucs. But if there's one thing, it would have to be complacency. But Greg Jennings, I want to get your take. What could possibly derail the Bucs from repeating as Super Bowl champs?
Well, you said it. It's definitely complacency, and it's injury. I mean, they've done everything right up to this point. They've brought back all the pieces that were important to them winning outside of the Antonio Brown, which they're still in discussion there. So we have yet to see if that's going to work itself out. However, when you have a team that has won, and they've won the way that they did, they were the hunters. They weren't being hunted. And so they were going after every team with everything that they had because they were after something. It's a different position when you go from being the hunter to being hunted. And so sometimes guys can't switch that role of now after you've hunted and you've had success, you brought home that cherished that find, now you have to go out and do it again. So I think what you said, complacency, it really sums it up. This team has to stay healthy, and they have to keep their eyes on the prize and stay focused for 17, 18 now weeks of the regular season.
Now, DB, you were a part of a lot of really good organizations. You started your career with the Patriots. You ended your career with the Colts. Both of these organizations know how to win at a high level, know how to win championships. So what do you think could derail the Buccaneers from repeating?
Kind of what Greg said. Only thing I see is injuries, really. I don't see them being complacent. You're led by Tom Brady, you're led by B.A., those great coordinators all coming back. I definitely don't see those guys getting lax. So injuries could be the only thing that can derail this team, honestly. They would be my betting favorite to run it back. And I know it's only April when we're talking about championships, but if I had to place a bet right now, it'll be on the Bucs. And you bring back a bunch of young guys in the secondary who played great, executed a game plan in the Super Bowl. You talked about what they did down the stretch from week 12 on, didn't lose a game. And guys just got used to each other. You know, the more and more continuity built throughout that team, they'll have an offseason. They'll go into this next year with these same expectations. So, honestly, the only thing I can see derailing these guys is injury.
Now, DB, watch yourself. Now, you come on this show talking about place your bets and placing bets. I might have to call you on it. I'm going to let you know. This ain't like these other shows.
I got you.
Greg, now, you were literally in the same position, so I don't know if I'm buying y'all's answer of injuries. Gee, you won the Super Bowl with the Packers. You remind me that every time you come on this show. You literally have your Super Bowl ring on probably right now. But then the next year, y'all go 15-1. Y'all get better record-wise because the year y'all won the Super Bowl, y'all were 10-6. You go 15-1, and it's not like Aaron Rodgers got hurt, so take me there. What derailed you when y'all were on your path to repeating as Super Bowl champs? What was it specifically?
Well, it was a little bit of everything. It was we were coming. It was the lockout off season. There was a lot of doubters. Oh, this team isn't getting together, but we knew we were good enough. So we were relying on what we had done the previous year and our abilities. We just thought we were that much better than everyone else, and it caught up to us. It wasn't that we didn't practice hard. It wasn't that we didn't play hard, but the desire, that hunger, that flame that was burning so bright and so hot before the season before, it wasn't that it wasn't burning and it wasn't present, but it wasn't as hot. It wasn't as big as it was the year before. And that's what happens when you get guys who've experienced some success and don't know how to throw that out the window and start fresh.
I've said this before, fellas, and DB, I'm going to get to you in a second. I've said this before that, you know, when you try to go on a diet, if I'm trying to look like Greg Jennings and make sure my abs is popping and whatnot, and I stop eating for a while, DB, all of a sudden, right, your stomach starts to shrink. And then if you go to a buffet, you might get full a little quicker than you're used to if you haven't eaten in a long time, and then all of a sudden you consume a lot of food very quickly. I draw that parallel to the Buccaneers. They hadn't eaten, they hadn't tasted success in a very long time, especially not with Jameis Winston. Mike Evans hadn't tasted success. Chris Godwin hadn't tasted success. Star linebacker Levante David hadn't tasted success. Ndamukong Suh, he hadn't necessarily tasted success, not in Tampa. So I think they might actually end up being a little too full if, in fact, because they tasted success so quickly. DB, do you think that will be problematic for some of the veterans in the locker room? And I'm not talking about the Tom Brady, Gronkowski veterans. I'm talking about the dudes like Mike Evans who've been on teams that were sorry since he got into the league, and all of a sudden he looks up, he's a Super Bowl champ.
No, I don't think so at all, man. You saw them being able to bring all those guys back. I think the first word that comes to my mind when I look at that roster is sacrifice. A lot of guys have made sacrifice to come back and win. You know, everybody know they could have, Shaq could have went out and got more money elsewhere. Other guys could have went out and got some more money elsewhere, but they took, I guess, quote unquote, team-friendly deals and came back to try to run it back. So sacrifice from the coaching staff, from the players. And you talk about the Patriot way for so long. Tom Brady was a huge, huge part of that. And you're seeing that same culture brought down to Tampa.
G, I got to come to you because this thought just came to my mind. You won a Super Bowl. You are one of few people, at least in this industry, that can necessarily speak of actually having won Super Bowls. So that begs the question, what's more difficult, winning the first one or trying to attempt to win the second one? The Bucs have won the first one. Y'all won the first one when y'all were 10-6. But then you had to go back and win the second one. What's more difficult?
Attempting to win the second one. Attempting to win the second one is more difficult. Obviously, everybody's trying to get that first one under their belt. But when you got it now, to acquire that same resolve, to keep that same fire, that same desire that you had when you didn't have that taste, that full belly that you're talking about, when it was empty, you have food in there now. And so now you got to go and train. Now you got to go and pick that weight up. Now you got to go and run that route. And you got to listen to that coach tell you that it wasn't good enough and you're a champion. It's a different mindset. It's harder to reel all that back in and reset and do it all over again and try to get it done as a team.
But, G, I got to go back to you. I got to go back to you because I have to believe, and I never won a Super Bowl, so I may be speaking ignorantly, but I have to believe it's very difficult to do something you don't even know how to do. Like you showed up in Green Bay and y'all won maybe your third or fourth year in the league. Rodgers hadn't won a Super Bowl. So I have to believe that it's hard to do something you don't even know how to do. What is it like even trying to learn how to win a Super Bowl when you ain't never won one?
You're fearless. You don't have something to fall from. You're not on top. So you're just trying to get to the top. And so when you don't know, you're willing to go above and beyond. You're willing to do whatever it takes. However, it's funny how when you know what it takes, and now you feel like, well, I don't have to do that anymore, what I did when I didn't know what it took. And sometimes it's those very things that you choose to not now do that will have really propelled you to getting what you desire so much again.
Appreciate that, G. DB, don't go too far. I know we got you later on in the show. But coming up, let's talk about a team that definitely hasn't won a Super Bowl in a while.